Stephen, you're no stranger to Kilkenny, I think. Am I right?
No, that's right. Well, a while ago I did 3 festivals in a row with the great musician Neil Martin. We did poetry and, we did Book 6 of the Aeneid, the last thing that Heaney wrote. We did De Profundis by Oscar Wilde, practically the last thing he wrote. And we did New York Time by Derek Mahon. And they were hugely successful, and I loved being there, I must say. And
they were in Canis's Cathedral, I think, Stephen, were they?
No, they were.
No,
no, they were down opposite that nice pub. In the kind of theatre, a regular theatre,
yeah.
Okay.
Opposite, yeah. Well, if it was in the Watergate Theatre, it was opposite quite a few nice pubs there.
No, they're all lovely, yeah.
They're very good.
You can't go into one, but you have to go into the other, I know.
Yeah, like you do the serious stuff. Actually, my young producer, who was, she was just checking up on who Stephen Rea was, and she said, God, he does an awful lot of stuff with vampires, doesn't he? But you do.
I know, I've only done 2 things with vampires.
Well, maybe that's quite a lot, but quite a lot.
Yeah,
quite a lot of serious stuff as well. And how are you, Stephen? Anyway, for a start.
Well, I'm okay. I'm fine. I just a series about, if you don't want, about serious stuff about the destruction of the Native Americans. The series is called The English. Guess who destroyed the Native Americans? And it's a brilliant, brilliant series.
And you do a lot of serious things, but you're also incredibly active. I mean, you're never not working. You're always doing films, plays, poetry, and we'll get to what you're doing in Kilkenny in a minute. But you've never had a time when when you haven't been incredibly busy working?
Well, I've had an odd time, I have had an odd time. I have 2 kids, and when they were young, I took time off. But they're not young anymore. But I do like working. I love being with the people who are in our business, whether it be film or theatre. And I love writers, and I love poetry, and I love musicians, yeah.
And you've been known to speak about politics as well in your time.
I know I have. I have. It's just that we've gone through quite a rough time, haven't we? And we're in a very rough time now. With and I mean, not just in relation to Ireland, but the world is a mess, isn't it? I'm sure you don't want to talk about that, but it is a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
And there's so much we can do for migrants and people, and we're doing fine here, I think, but there's still the problem of direct provision still goes on, which is a very uncomfortable way to settle migrants and leave them not feeling particularly wanted,
Yeah. But you, it seems to me that you feel there's something that you can do, that your voice can be used politically, with a small p, obviously. I'm talking about social issues and other things.
Yeah, well, I just think if you can, you should, if you feel strongly about something, you should open up about it, really, It's just, it's such a mess, really. You don't have to think of Afghanistan, where there's women now attending a kind of schools that are hidden,
Yeah.
like it's because they're not allowed to be educated anymore. I mean, it's unthinkable. It's unthinkable to us that women would not be educated, and we ought to be doing something. I don't know what, but we ought to be doing something.
Well, you do use your voice. Were you out in Callan for breakfast on Pluto when that was being shot? Or have you forgotten it? The breakfast.
No, I don't think I was in Callan.
You weren't, yeah.
They may have done stuff in Callan. I have.
Cillian Murphy was in Callan, I think.
I know the dear Cillian, yeah. But I think I was in Callan years ago with Field Day Theatre Company doing a play of Tom Kilroy, who lived in Callan when he was a young man, you know.
And wrote the big chapel, of course, which is amazing. Yeah.
So I have been. We travelled all around Ireland for about 10 years, you know, doing a play every year, and it was great. It was fantastic, and I loved working around the country. You know, you found out so much about things. And
breakfast on Pluto was kind of between Callan and Belfast, I think. And you're from Belfast, of course, aren't you?
Of course, but I wasn't playing a Belfast character there.
No.
That was all just to do with sponsorship by getting money to make the film. So they were able to do it in Belfast because the northern film people gave them some money, but therefore they had to film some of it in Belfast, you know.
And Stephen, do you have a favourite film? I mean, your work rate is enormous, and you've made a lot of films. Yeah. Played in. Have you a favourite one yourself?
I can't go past The Crying Game.
Oh, great! That's definitely my favourite, and that's when you were much younger, wasn't it?
Well, I was much younger. Thanks for bringing up that.
We were all so was
I.
Yes, but it's a wonderful film.
No, it's a wonderful film. It was ahead of its time. The whole gender issue is huge now, but at that time it wasn't. And it struck a chord all over the world, in fact, you know. And I think that was Neil Jordan at his absolute best. But he's still working away, you know. He's still doing lots of interesting things. He's a tremendous filmmaker.
So, tell us. I better get to the point here, because you're hosting an event called Saiocht, and it's part of the Arts Festival, and I think you're performing as well, but your main role is to be host. Is that right?
Yeah, I'd be introducing people, but I'd also be doing some stuff as well. I mean, it's really a combination of poetry and music, you know, and we have the wonderful Mulcahy girls, Louise Mulcahy and Michelle Mulcahy, and Neil Martin, again, my dear friend, playing cello, and they're wonderful incredible musicians, and they have an enormous sensitivity to poetry, and we'll have Gabriel Rosenstock doing poems in Irish and in English, and I will read some poems by local people, Robert McLaughlin, Emily Murta, and then we also have Emily Cullen, who's a poet and a wonderful harper, and she has a lot of new poems that she's been working on. So we'll be combining all of that to make, I think, a really wonderful evening, you know. And Louise will be playing some recently composed music that she has composed, and they will accompany Emily Cullen with who'll be reading some poems from that she's written about the harping tradition. So it'll be great. Look, I'm telling you that, but you better believe me.
And it's in St. John's Priory, which is lovely, and that's opposite another wonderful pub, of course, Langton's, which I'm sure you've been in, Stephen, have you?
You don't have to lure me into pubs, you know. I'll find them. But no, and we have some wonderful poets really have died recently. You know, Derek Mahan. Thomas Kinsella, and Seamus Dean. I'll be doing some of those as well. But I'll be mostly introducing the really talented people.
Right.
Those musicians and poets. Be great. Be totally great. I hope you'll come there.
Yes, I'm actually on holiday, so I hope I'll be back in time, but I'd love to come. Yeah, I'd love to come. And we've had a text in here from Anne, Stephen, to say The Crying Game was brill, best film ever. Shock how it ended. What an actor. So you've got at least one fan who'll be coming along, I'm sure, with all the other ones.
That's good, yeah. No, it meant a lot to people because it was, it was about something that was very close to people, which they'd mostly kept very secret. But now the gender thing is talked about all the time, and that's all to the good,
And what year was that? I mean, it's a long time ago, isn't it?
It's a very long time ago. It's about in the 90s. It was about 92 or 3. But it was huge. It was huge in America.
Yeah, because, I mean, it was such a combination of story, wasn't it? Sort of a British soldier, the gender issue, the North and the Troubles, and but it was amazingly sensitive, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, Neil is a truly great dramatist of interesting things, and of course he's a great novelist as well. But that theme of the capture of a British soldier is common enough. And Frank O'Connor had one called The Guest of the Nation, which is exactly the same. An IRA man trying to come to terms with his captive. And then Brendan Behan, of course, had one called The Hostage. But so Neil took that and made it his own,
And do you love living in Ireland? Well, clearly you do, because you do, Stephen, but, you could have been in Hollywood or anywhere else, couldn't you? You chose to be here.
Well, I really don't. I've a slight I always used to say, if you live in Ireland, you need a door marked exit, and during the last couple of years, the door marked exit has been closed a little because of COVID and everything. So, but I have no sorrow about not being in America because it's increasingly a mess, and there's awful conflict going on there. I won't say who's, the whole Trump thing and it's just too awful, and black people being killed by policemen. It's just, I don't know how they're ever going to work it out,
So better stay.
And I don't feel comfortable there because of that.
Yeah. Well, look, it's been a real pleasure, Stephen, talking to you, and thanks for all the wonderful movies and plays and so on that you've brought our way. But Saiocht, what does Saiocht mean, by the way? And I gather it's had one outing as a form of entertainment already. Is that right?
Yes, we did it with actually in the Pepper Canister Church in Dublin, and Michael D. Higgins was there because he's a great man for music and poetry, and it was wonderful. And so we just added more people, and I'm especially keen on having the local poets. But Saiocht, as I understand it, means learning, skill, civilization. It's trying to become more civilized. It's about the exploration of poetry and music from the Ireland of an earlier age through to the ever-changing face of today. So,
well, there you are, all wrapped up in one Irish word.
Does that? Yes, I know.
That's great.
And I must say to you as well, Sue, I'm sitting in my house, which is full of memories of the dear Clive Nunn, who furnished my house for me.
Oh, goodness. I didn't know that you'd made that connection. That's amazing, Stephen. Thank you. Yes, he talked about you.
Kitchen, very beautiful dining table, a lot of stuff, because he was a great artist.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you, Stephen.
No.
And he talked a lot about you. Yes, I think you had some good conversations from what I can gather.
Yeah, we were pals, really, for the time, Yeah. So I send you all my best, and thank you so much for this conversation.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so much, Stephen.
Oh, okay.
Take care. Lovely talking to you. Slán.
You too, Sue. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
No, that's Stephen Rea there, surprising me there at the end, but a wonderful actor. And just to remind you again, Saiocht is at St. John's Priory on Monday the 8th of August as part of Kilkenny Arts Festival.